Yeah, so don't freak out with the incredibly huge bars. I know, it's a lot. So there's a bench. Pretty standard looking bench. I think this might actually be uh, just a bench in this virtual world. So there's the Museum of Exclusionary Design. I'm very impressed with their lettering for the exhibition. Whoever put that up is an artist in their own right. This museum houses a collection of benches that, among many unrelated aspects, exhibit signs of exclusionary design. The goal is to identify and explore the hallmarks of this harmful practice and to build awareness and encourage discussion. Objects such as these may have use cases and are created to fulfill a variety of needs. Therefore, you may not agree with that every bench shown should be featured. However, by gathering this collection together and choosing to observe them as a whole, I hope it's clear why only seeing them as individuals is damaging. All benches on display are digital recreations of their real-life counterparts. While great care has been taken to ensure accuracy of form and texture, there may be small differences due to constraints of this digital medium. In the few instances that intentional alterations have been made to conform to this space, it has been clearly noted. I really like how they're taking this so seriously, actually. That's great. Whenever possible, location coordinates and names of those associated with and credited for the bench's creation have been provided. It really is properly a digital art museum. Credits. A detailed breakdown of all people involved, tutorials followed, and any software hardware used, all of which are vital to getting any of this done. If you want a large version. Now, I've been to a few museums in my day. This is, yeah, damn well done. It's dead on. So this is our topic, monuments to guilt. The value of the public bench has changed. What was once a place to rest for all is now merely a place to perch for some. This museum displays variations of the public bench to inform the unaware on the practice of exclusionary design, and we also call hostile architecture. But that comes in many forms aside from just benches. This is specifically about benches. It explores how design, architecture, and art are being used to obfuscate this harmful practice of othering. You even get the limited vision goggles. You know, I think it's fair that they want to use the medium in some extra way, but yeah, I would prefer that this was toggleable because I think I'd rather just look at it the normal way. By examining the design of our public benches, we can see what our society truly values in its public, and for whom increasingly the word public does not apply. The point, though, is in a way that I'm not allowed to take this mask off, so there is no option given for that reason. While exclusionary design is used in many corners of our public spaces and comes in countless forms, this museum chooses to highlight and make examples of the public bench. Once seen through the lens of exclusionary design, we can begin to recontextualize how we see our public benches. We can shift our perspective on these objects from places for us to sit to monuments to our guilt for those who we choose to ignore. By accepting this inconvenient burden of guilt instead of pushing it away or contorting it to anger and fear, we can acknowledge that the guilt is simply telling us something is wrong and that we wish to make a change. In other words, accepting that we have even made a mistake before we start to reconcile how we're going to fix it. Network Rail in London. Train stations and bus stops are traditionally intended as temporary shelter for travelers. Therefore, monuments in and around public transport favor function over form and can be quite aggressively othering. As larger train stations have become closer to that of shopping centers, the monuments themselves are made softer to the eye of the consumer class. I'm curious about their choice of hanging it at an angle like that. Rather than presenting it in the context you usually see it in, they chose to elevate it and at a skewed angle. I guess so you could see it from every angle easily. Oh, I just realized I'm doing this in the wrong order. I was supposed to start here. They're numbered. No one, nowhere. A classic of exclusionary design. By divvying up the bench, you limit its use for one person whilst offering some vague excuse of comfort to the other. Those armrest dividers are the most iterated upon element of the public bench, designed and redesigned over and over in search for the perfect balance between visual appeal and limiting use cases. This is our public bench. There's no duck, unfortunately. I can't look underneath. Yeah, they have definitely taken care to represent it well. Down to that little strut at the bottom. Oh, it looks like all of these are... No, all but one of them are London. That one's in France. The majority of monuments on display are found in and around London. It was impossible to get one on-site reference whenever possible, and fortunately for this project, London is heavily decorated with examples of exclusionary design. It is not exceptionally so, however. The monuments on display have been redesigned hundreds of times over for public spaces across the globe. So you can see now this is essentially, you know, another version of the same concept with the armrest in the middle to prevent someone from laying across easily. I'd say some are easier to still lay across anyway than others. Because, like, if you really wanted to, you could probably put your foot under and, you know, through it. I'd say that one would be a lot worse because you can't really lift your leg up if you try to do that. The push for more greenery in cities has opened up new ways to split the bench into segments. Similar to armrests to the preferred pedestrian, it looks almost considerate. Right, so, I mean, this is now a pot for growing something, but it also splits up the bench, essentially. And, yeah, I mean, I genuinely didn't think about most of this stuff until I had started seeing articles and images calling it out. I grew up around plenty of benches like this, never thought about it. And when you're not someone who this applies to, I mean, that's exactly how it works. Until you're shown it and given the explicit instruction of how it is malicious in its design, it just kind of coasts under the radar. So we read that one already. Well, I think the idea is the dirt may not stop you outright, but it may have you consider somewhere different instead of there, because maybe that's pretty obnoxious. And also, it would just be dirt at some point, but eventually there's going to be stuff growing out of it, so that definitely makes it less appealing. London bus stops. You can spend every day your commute never questioning why this monument that sits beneath the well-lit shelter of a bus stop is thin and slanted. You're only ever there for a few minutes anyway. Yeah, so these are usually abutted into the wall, and they usually tilt a bit. So they're kind of for you to, like, rest up against, but not to put all your weight on. And they're obviously quite thin. This one's in France. So used to seeing armrests break up the public bench, we don't question it when they drop the pretense of it being a surface to rest your arm. Even when their form better reflects their true intentions, we accept that this is just what a public bench is. A public bunch. It's a public bunch. That's what I say. Yeah. Very obnoxious. You know what's also really sad about this, too? When you start to see the cruelty in it, you start to realize how this kind of stuff is just everywhere you look, and it kind of poisons your worldview a little bit. Because it's unfortunately in the nature of so many people to cruelly other others to keep them out of the public space, as this exhibition is telling us. And you just don't really want to think of people as being so cruel as to do that, but they have to make active choices that lead to these things happening. So it's very well baked in. Please do not touch. Wow, that wall is really nice texture work on it, actually. I wonder if it's all just photogrammetry. It's like all textures made from photos. I mean, there's probably a lot of source material they could draw from. Oh. What's going on over here? Oh, that's cool. Huh. Yeah, they got a projection. It really looks like a projection, too. That's really well done. Wait, did I miss more of them? We got from 6. Oh, and probably was meant to go around and come back. Uncomfortable futures. See how they specifically cause, because of our narrow viewpoint, in order for me to read this easily, I have to actually step quite a ways away from it. Which, again, is kind of reinforcing the theme here. No flash photography, no eating or drinking, no sitting or sleeping. Please do not touch the artworks. Yeah, they're doing a great job with this. I remember seeing an old lady struggling hard, and the only thing available was those slanted walrus thingies. Language of exclusionary design is evolving. We are moving away from the traditional public bench with its wooden slats and armrests to smoother, sleeker silhouettes formed of concrete and steel. By appropriating the visual tropes of modern art and design, our expectations of the public bench have shifted. No longer does a bench have to provide its original service. The minimalist use of these materials conjure feelings of success and wealth. They mirror the visual tropes of our utopic fiction. They sell us a sense of progress and safety, of cleanliness and uniformity. They tell us all is well, the future is now, and everything has been resolved. Because in that utopian sort of illustration that they want us to have conjured in our minds, the problem of homelessness is no longer a factor. But the way that they're manifesting that solution, simply eliminate the homeless. That's what they're essentially doing with that. They want them to just go out of sight, just get out of here. However you don't exist, we don't care, just don't be here. They tell us all is well, the future is now, and everything has been resolved, but these benches offer no solution. Instead, they simply relocate the problem. If you haven't seen someone sleeping rough in a while, it is not because they no longer have to. What was once a public bench is now public sculpture. What was once a functional object is now corporate art. Oh, that is dead on. What once conjured a fleeting feeling of guilt is now a passing amusement of the consumer class. Right, because we're sort of making progress further into that fiction to the extent that we can now start to undo the original thought process. We're now a step away removed from the problem, so now we can start moving forward further into that new vision of the way the world actually works. A bench no longer has to be anything, not even a place to rest. Right, it's just an adornment. Even the cleanest hands leave marks and damaged surfaces. Oh, hey. I know those wall plugs. So we're in Berlin now. Wow. Yeah, those are, freaking goofy looking. That looks awful. I skipped 7. Where the hell is it? I think we're meant to circle around. There is no 7. Is it here? Oh, that's a bizarre arrangement. What? Their numbering doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna clear through this room, right? I'm gonna come around, and then we're gonna go visit that one, and then we'll go into the next room. So don't worry about the numbers. We'll see all of them. Oh yeah, I forgot to look up. Damn, they absolutely nailed this museum space, though. This looks so good. I actually would love to see digital recreations of all sorts of different museum spaces, because this looks so good. As far as I know, no, it's actually just digital only. Yeah, I think the numbering is probably intentionally obtuse as part of the statement they're making with the, you know, crazy letterboxing and all that. So now we're in Tokyo. Monument 9 behind is no longer at the mentioned location and has been replaced by Monument 10. Okay. Both monuments have been shortened in length to fit within the space. Their length does not impact their exclusionary features. Ah. I thought that the bottom one was, I thought this was like a guardrail to stop us going near the top. I didn't really think too hard when I thought that. Wow, so that's like a freaking... It just looks like a pipe. Like a wipeout feature, like the thing spins to knock you off of it. It also just looks terrible. It doesn't even look modernist, just looks... It looks just industrial. I mean, granted, it's nice and chrome and all, but what, like, why would you want that? Doesn't that just look terrible? Oh, look, you can even see the reflections of the text in the side of it. They actually made cube maps. Or is it screen space, actually? I need to know. Oh, it is screen space, yeah. That's fair enough. More London. Protecting the exterior walls of the privately owned land or of services firm PwC from loitering. This is less of a bench and more of an ethically palatable redesign of what are effectively human-sized pigeon spikes. That's the Gantz ball, dude. There's a dude living inside of that gives you weapons and judges you. Yeah, you know what these are? They're the bollards from Target parking lots. I thought the point of those was to stop cars from driving into the freaking front of the store, but... I don't know. Does that stop anyone from loitering? Well, as they said, we might question some of their choices with inclusion for this exhibit. I would probably question this one, because I didn't really know if these were even meant to be anything. But yeah, I guess the point is these could have been a bench had they not decided to put some art there, which, what's the point of the art? It's not because they decided this art, this beautiful marble, is so attractive they want it to represent them. It's, there's a space we could put some benches, but decided not to. And it's cramped here, so probably don't stand here. It takes up space. So, you know, now I've reasoned my way back around the other side, now I actually do agree that it does belong there. But I don't want to hate orbs. That's a difficult question. I'm gonna say I don't hate orbs, but I hate when they're used in a way that's exclusionary, so... Yeah, that's weird. Maybe they're still getting me to question the very premise in a good way. 20? Oh, I think they expect you to just trace the whole wall around. Yeah, I'm gonna still follow my same plan. Shiro Studio Metal Co. Unknown. Yeah, that is very odd. What do you think of that one? It looks like a polished granite kind of material. It's definitely stone, right? I don't think that's any kind of thick plastic or something. That wouldn't make any sense. Do you like that one? You like it? You can sleep on it for sure. I like ones that are easy to clean. Yeah, well, I agree with that, actually. It's just a table, too. Like, if it didn't have those bits on the top, it's just like a metal table. Is it like a sofa in one direction and a seat in the other? Right, yeah, I think you could sit two people in the front here, and then you'd sit another on the side facing the other direction. I guess this one isn't the worst offender, but probably still not great. Back to London again. Featured mostly for the irony of a sculpture of a skater on top of a bench with anti-skate measures. Oh my god, really? It's also painfully thin, and the sculpture itself divides the bench up. Information on the design of the seat itself was not found. I would assume Wallace had little to do with its exclusionary features. Sincere apologies to Wallace. Sculpture is not my area of expertise. I tried my best. Right. I will say, though, there's no doubt someone could sleep on that. But they wouldn't love doing so because, first of all, it's metal and it's going to be freezing. Second, it's quite thin. And there's like little... You see these little nubs that stick up on either side? Well, There's two things about that. I know for a fact that skateboarders would go around with angle grinders and cut the railings off of benches that could potentially be sleepable. And I wonder, is this maybe one of those benches that had those railings and then they were cut? Well, they're awfully uniform, though. Or were these little chunks of metal welded on just to make it so you, like, bash your elbow on them? Because they seem really unnecessary, even to the form of what it's trying to be. Like, people are just going to get injured on those anyway. Oh, you see that one angle there? It looks kind of not even. Oh, it's an anti-skate feature. Those are just to stop people grinding on the sides, right? Okay, you're right. Yeah, I have to consider it from every different perspective. So they specifically said they were anti-skate measures, yeah. And I still was thinking about people sleeping instead of just processing the thing I just read. Okay. Network Rail, Victoria Station, London. I have to say, immediately, my first impression of this, before I even consider the context, is I like looking at that. It's just, it kind of reminds me of the Very Hungry Caterpillar. It's got that, like, autumnal color palette and the shaped wood, which is just sort of attractive looking. But we're not here specifically to only talk about the aesthetics. You know, it's probably slightly more sleepable than some of them, but it might also be... Is it angled? Well, there's a divot in the center, isn't there? So it actually isn't the worst. It's got a hole where the railing is. I don't know. I don't think this is one of the worst ones either. Is the slatting across it... I mean, I know it's partially so you can make that shape. But is it also so there's like a draft from underneath? Or is it so there's less material to clean? Because actually, I think this would make this harder to clean because you got to clean each slat individually. I don't know. It's not great. Again, none of them are great, but I don't think this is the worst one either. And it at least kind of looks nice, I think. Oh, so the rainfall... Yeah, the rainwater goes through. That makes a lot of sense, obviously. The railing is just unneeded. Oh, I completely agree with you. And I'm in no way am I pushing back against the fact that these are hostile architecture. I'm not making any excuses for them. I'm strictly just saying, at first glance, walking by that, I would have said, oh, that looks kind of nice. But, yeah, you're completely right. So this is Factory Furniture, Camden City Council, Queen Street, London. Factory Furniture describes the winner of the Keep Britain Tidy Award as a more inclusive place to sit. Looks like a freaking sarcophagus. I thought we were going to slide the top off and get the pyramid juice. Or like something from Mirror's Edge or Cyberpunk 2077. It's almost like so ancient looking it looks new again. I don't know. What do you think about this? I don't think I'd want to sit on this, to be honest. I don't think I get it. Yeah, you're gonna have a cold butt. It just looks kind of inherently dirty. I mean, I guess it's easy to maintain because there's nothing really to maintain. But you definitely can't sleep on that. Not even remotely. Yeah, that's not a good one. I just like the presentation of it in this exhibit. I think showing it the way they have here, in a dark little hole with a projection over it, is actually very clever. I think this is like a really well-made exhibit. Oh, they look like little Death Stars from over here. Yeah, I actually really love this. This is such a cool idea. And it lets me take you on a little guided tour of an art museum where we all get to share the experience together. Which I think art museums are so much more fun if you have people to talk to throughout. If you're just going by yourself, I mean, there's plenty of reflection to do there and discussion to have with yourself. But having that interplay and that discourse as you're talking through it is just so much more interesting. Right, so this is 19, 24, and 15. Thank you for that. So 20. This is 24 in London, Bankside. ID created Metal Co. That's this one. ID's created website shows examples of its use in Singapore, USA, and Italy, but exact locations could not be confirmed. Monument 15, Island City, Central Park, Fukuoka. One of 4 variations at the location given their layout, and I create a circle. Oh, these things here. Yeah, I can see why this would be seen as sort of an art piece more than seating. Well, let's start here where it's, I think, the ugliest. Park your backside. This looks like something you would see in New York City, really. It's just a solid stone slab with these huge chunky armrests. There's no sleeping on these. It is a brutalist bench, 100%. They're uncomfortable. I think these are kind of unsightly. I mean, I've maybe seen worse too, but they're pretty awful looking. Yeah, there's not really an upside to this one. This is just for the bin, I'd say. Just get rid of this one entirely. It's not even, like, symmetrical. I don't know what they're doing with this. And I like brutalist stuff, but not here, and not for this occasion. Well, if we were just judging this strictly as a piece of form, and not as a human interactable bench, I actually think this is very attractive. So these are what? So you're supposed to lean up against them, and then this is for sitting, and then just invert it. Maybe it's just because it's, like, very nice looking wood, and then the stripes kind of just work. There's no way you could sleep on this, though. Do you ever use something to lean against like this? Because I'd say there's plenty of surfaces you could just lean against. You don't really need like public permission by a bench to lean up against it. I would just lean up against a wall or something. Like, why do I need this? This is where the seating should be. So yeah, I think the very existence of these leanable surfaces, as much as they tried to make it look sort of attractive and form over function here, I don't really think that they serve any greater good other than just to be exclusionary. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of the nicer looking ones, but again, the point still remains. They don't need to be like this. And then this, it kind of looks like a mini skate park. Which it most certainly is not. And apparently it was laid out in a circle. Oh, I didn't realize they were actually taped off. I should have looked at that. Wow, they actually went and stenciled the tape. I mean, if we're just saying this is real, which it isn't, but they would have gone through the trouble as to actually cut that. Hold on. I'm imagining this in a circle, and I imagine it probably looks quite nice. But there's very little you can do with this. Like, there is no point at which a human body would be able to really use this comfortably. It's kind of awful. I don't know. I can see it in form only, that it's, like, sort of attractive at first glance. But it's really not that comfortable and probably isn't worth all of the exclusionariness. Well, none of it's worth any of it. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's garbage, too. They're all garbage. Leslie Jones Architecture, Salmon Harvester Property, Worcester City Council. Little waves. Yeah, I could totally see this in New York as well. It's got this kind of monolithic thing to it. And I guess they're designed to be modular, because you could, like, scoot two of them next to each other. That's funny, actually. The one side has a lip that edges against the other, but then it isn't symmetrical on this side. Oh no, the lines clip through it. Rip. The whole model just needs to inch, like, one left arrow key to the left. So I guess you could only do two of them like this. Well, I guess you could take this side and then turn it the other way again and just put that against it, so you could just keep going forever. You think that's sleepable? I think that one of these crooks is going to end up right in the middle of your back. Based on my understanding of the scale that we're working at, I'd say you're going to end up with, like, your shoulders across this one, and then, like, your butt right on top of that one. I don't know. I don't think that's going to be great. Flip it upside down. Congrats, you developed a bench. With a weird gap underneath it, but, you know, what can you do? Area Street Furniture, reference based on images from their website. Area declined to give location information. Location information of products sold. So what's going on here? Oh no, is that a backward tilted? It is. For a moment I was like, is that just like mostly a normal bench? Nope. Yeah, of course, they can't just make it level. Now, I assume this would get bolted into the ground somehow, because otherwise, if you bang your back against this as you sit down, isn't there like a decent chance the whole thing is just going to flip over to the, you know, the backrest is just going to go out from behind you? No, that's terrible also. What's going on over here? What the hell is going on over here? When we use concrete and steel as materials for art through sculpture, it becomes open to interpretation. Its impact is up for debate, and we can even choose to ignore the artist's intent entirely if it suits. Oh, okay, these are anti-benches, I suppose. This is a, you know how the fashion industry starts at absolute batshit and works their way down to consumer grade? This is the art world's way of reciprocating that and going from the lowest to the highest, and then pushing past it and creating forms that just have absolutely no functional value for the sake of it's still art and you're allowed to make what you like. It's easy to get lost in the intent of art and its creator, but this isn't just art, certainly not to the people that need it most. Regardless of intent, these works have an effect on the people they share their public space with. And I'm 100% for anyone should be able to make whatever art they want. It's just we're talking about a public square where the people who rely on these benches are now being given art when they just need function. And they're doing it maliciously, intentionally, as I've said already. Heinz's website describes his modified social benches. What? Social benches. As places of activity rather than rest and solitude. And that they demonstrate the contradiction between artwork and functional object. They demonstrate the contradiction between artwork and functional object. Right, okay, of course. They're intentionally pushing the line as far as they can. Well, maybe not as far as they can, but pretty damn far past the point of functionality for the sake of saying this is not the thing that you're usually associating to create dissonance and juxtaposition. Inside a gallery, these ideas are safe to explore. Yes, exactly. That's totally fine. By warping the traditional bench into these exaggerated forms, you could even read them as commentary on exclusionary design itself. Outside the gallery, the contradiction Heinz's benches so clearly demonstrate is weaponized by city councils and landscape planners that purchase and place these benches along their busy shopping streets and parks. Yeah. Yeah. What I don't know what they even think they're doing. Those aren't even hardly functional as normal benches. What the hell is this? I mean, I know what it is, but like, what? It actually looks a bit like a Japanese torii gate. I kind of wish that was what it was instead of that. South Bank, London. At least 5 variations are featured around South Bank Centre. You can find many more of the variations here. I actually said Jesus Christ out loud. I saw that. Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. If you were in a gallery space, have at it. Go absolutely buck wild. It doesn't matter. Go to town. If this is actually showing up in public squares, like, what? Not all are as extreme as the ones on display. Some look more comfortable to lay on than your average bench. That's pretty extreme. I guess you could, like, kind of sit with your back against this and your legs over, like, a recliner. But nobody's gonna sit on this. And nobody's gonna use the backrest in the intended direction. That doesn't make any sense. You're gonna put your butt in this weird corner? That's so weird. The whole thing is bizarre to me. And I don't even know what you do with this. Stand in the center. Heinz's website features over 50 variations. Some are permanent and some are temporary installations. Oh, they're temporary installations. These 3 were originally on display for a year in New York along with 13 others. Those 16 were then bought and shipped across the world to the UK, Denmark, China, and Belgium. Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with everything the art world does either. Please do not touch. Oh my god, the textures are so detailed. Look, there's little bits missing out of the H and the L. Yeah, it gets a little blurry at this distance, but that's incredible looking. Marshalls, the City of London, Munyon Street, London. London's burning. Pour on water. Okay. I need more context. What do they mean by that? It's just a stone slab, really. And we've kind of covered... Wait a minute. The freaking lines even move! Oh my god. I gotta freaking email this developer and tell them they did an amazing job with this. This gallery is so good. I would not have expected physics modeling on these. Would you? I wouldn't have at all. That's so wild. Did the benches hanging from the beginning... Oh my god, you're right. I have to go back and look. This is amazing. Even the floor looks super detailed. No, I'm afraid not. At least that one doesn't. That does make it pay off a little bit more with the, like, don't touch, don't interact stuff, if you could actually see them react a little to you moving into them. But I think it's one thing to make those ropes that are, like, wholly independent of themselves have physics versus these where, you know, maybe they don't want you to necessarily be able to clip them into the wall or some ridiculous thing. Or, yeah, it just wasn't worth the effort. It's actually quite a beautiful shot, too. Anyway. Glad I checked. I hope you're all enjoying this. I'm actually having an amazingly fun time with this. The lighting is so good. Blame. A public bench appears overnight, with no evidence of who contracted to install it, no trace of who manufactured it. Is this like that cube that they put in Central Park that had like a bunch of money in it or something? It's like an ad for a security firm or some nonsense. Like $1 million in stacked cash or some ridiculous thing. Or who provided the raw materials. Nothing about who designed it, nor the landscapers that planned out its placement, or which architecture team they were directed by. That is a hell of a sentence. Oh no, sorry, it's 2 sentences. Never mind. It is often unclear who even owns the land, if it's private or government funded, and who commissioned the redevelopment in the first place. At no point can we pluck out a single name and point our fingers. Right, because all the blame has been diffused into the world, into all of the administrative bodies that make up all of the spaces that we inhabit. Calling out those involved in the production of these monuments is not an attempt at blaming or to inspire direct action or approach. Crediting the work is a reminder that actual people had a role to play in the creation of those objects. These monuments exist as a result of a series of choices in from a long line of individuals. That's what I was saying before. Getting your head around the fact that this is like all intentional, and many people had the option to say no along the way, and all went along with it. It kind of changes it a little bit. Well, most often we cannot speak to the intent of the choices made, we can see the impact of them. We can recognize that individuals unknown to us are making decisions about how we use our public spaces. These few unknown individuals are defining what public means for all of us. Yeah, and it's important we identify something as basic as a bench, because it's all forms of life that are being considered in this way. Behavior to be modeled. Bongo Mike and Extremely Frank Jeremy. From the album Away from Tube Trains, released online by 33 Jazz. I want to watch this, but I also don't want to get a content ID match. Is this the end of the museum? I think it might be, actually. Ah, it's unfortunate. I was hoping there's a little bit more. A lot of the time you go through a little room like this and it might open up again into a different space, but I think this is all. Well, I would highly encourage you, go and get this and walk around this museum yourself. Or bring a friend through it and hear what they have to say about these benches, because it's quite likely, if you just bring someone in that's never considered this as a possibility, they may have never even thought about why things look the way they look or why they're arranged the way they are. And it would be a really interesting conversation to have with a friend or family member, and just let them walk around and see what they say. Oh, I wish there was more. I would love to do more of this. But, you know, bravo to the developer for putting this all together, because it looks amazing. Thought I was pushing my head through the door. I just realized we can zoom in, by the way. I didn't realize we could do that the whole time. Look away from the screen and be amazed by the verticality of your vision. Oh yeah, it just keeps going. Wild. So do we have a least favorite bench out of the entire set? Probably discounting all of these, because these aren't even attempting to be things we're meant to sit on. After the 3 red ones, I'm gravitating either toward this one here or the metal pipe back here. Because this is awful. This doesn't even look like you're supposed to go near it. Yes, it's shiny, but no, you're not really gonna want to go near that, really, I'd say. I also kind of hate this. This reminds me of an abstracted version of a restroom's sinks, as created in Bryce 3D in 1998. Right. Well, I guess that's all we can really do. But, well done. My hat's off to you, developer. You've done a great job here. Thank you, Lewis. Thanks, Grace, James, Loki, Ollie, and Abby. Everybody contributed. Well done. Can you go see the only actual bench at the start? You can't sit on it, though. You know, it'd be kind of interesting, actually, if there was a little courtyard. And maybe half of the courtyard has normal benches and half has hostile benches. So you can kind of see the juxtaposition in a real space. Yeah, I would like that. Anyway, great stuff. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, even the design of it is all damn good. It's really snappy. I mean, it feels like stuff that I was aspiring to do in college. When I was trying to really, you know, keep up with everything that was going on in design and typography. Everything's on with this. All right, well done. Monuments to Guilt.